House Television Network.
The Tamara Scott Show. Tamara has served as the state director for one of America's largest pro-life, pro-family public policy organizations. In 2007, Tamara was named one of America's top 10 most influential kingmakers by the Religion News Association. Tamara has spent years proclaiming and defending the values of a Christian worldview that is the foundation of our constitutional republic. And now, here is your host, Tamara Scott.
Hey everybody, welcome. I am Tamara Scott. This is the Tamara Scott Show, where we help you live God's Word in today's world when the headlines hit home. Why? Because if He expects you to live through it, He has directed you how to do it somewhere in His Word. Now, we don't fuss about the headlines. We don't get caught up and distracted in the headlines, because if God has a plan for you, it's a plan for good, not for harm. No matter what valley we're walking through, no matter what frightful situation may be, no matter what the circumstance, as the song used to say, the worship chorus we used to sing, no matter what the circumstances or what I feel or see, the Word is working mightily in me. He has a plan for you. But yesterday we had Brandon House come on the show a little bit with us, kind of a treat. He's so busy, and I appreciated him coming on the show with me, talking to you about things you can do for your family when we have these situations of uncertainty. Folks are not sure what's going to happen with the Strait of Hormuz, although late in the middle of the night they were saying that I think it was called Operation Freedom or something, but they've already changed the direction. The president is reconsidering. I don't know why. I trust him in this. I do trust him in this. And I think if anybody is concerned about life, we've seen more out of this president who sent all the military forces we had after one in Iran. When we think about Biden walking away from billions in a military footnote and 13, that he allowed danger to happen and lives lost. So I do trust the president in this. And I actually got to see the vice president yesterday. I really, truly got to see him. And there's nothing like when the president or vice president asks you a question and you're like, you want to make sure you answer correctly and wisely. And I think I did. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. But anyway, all of this to say, God has a plan. We don't want to panic you, but we want to give you options. We want to give you a way you can prepare, be strategically in a place where you can have confidence and peace of mind, so you don't have anxiety. And so today, one of our guests that is joining us will be right in that topic, because we'll be talking about AI data centers. You know, I've wanted to have people coming on talking about those for some time. There's a lot of concern. We talked about it just briefly with Tom DeWeese, American Policy Center, on, I believe, Monday it was. And he has an article that was coming out in the New American Magazine, but he said he thinks this is the largest grassroots movement he's seen, the uprising against these AI data centers. And I told you, I think yesterday, I've only heard ever one person say anything positive about them, and that was at a candidate forum, and that individual was in economic development, here where I'm coming from, right? A totally different bent on it. And that's the only person I've ever heard say anything positive about these. Before we go there, today is National Nurses Day. I just want to say thank you to all those nurses out there. You come in the ugly. You are there when we need help. You are the ones that people call at night when they don't want to go to urgent care. You're the ones that the family members call and say, I'm feeling this. Can you help me? You're the ones that deal with the trauma. And as one of the commercials for Nurses Day said, doctors diagnose, we're the ones that heal. Thank you for everything that you do. You can look up the history, and I'll put the link on the Tamara Scott Show page. Florence Nightingale, the woman with the lamp that used to check on troops in the middle of the night. We'll talk about that. We won't talk about that, but it's on the Facebook, and you can look at that yourself. All right, I am going to play very quickly. Logan or Thomas, did you get, I sent another email, and it has a 50-second video of a candidate talking in Michigan about these AI data centers. Did you get that one? It's in the second email I sent. Might be the third email, because I think I sent one of vice president's video as well. But it's, you know what? I think I'm still sitting on it. I'll just send it to you now, and we'll skip that till later. All right. So we'll hop to our guest, Mike Dillon. Thanks for joining me today. You can see, I guess I kind of messed that up. Sorry about that. But I thank you for coming on. You have airwaterhealing.com, airwaterhealing.com. We've had you on the show before because you want to help people live healthy and ward off some of those things that we see in our environment. But AI data centers seem to be a very real concern: air pollution, noise pollution, EMFs, and water contamination. Do you want to start off on this?
Well, thank you so much for having me back on the show. And I think that one of the things that we need to, pin down in the very forefront of this interview is that AI does not live in the cloud, right? It's not up in the clouds. It's not some fancy little data satellite that's out of our orbit that isn't affecting our lives here on Earth, right? It's massive industrial corporate conglomerates that are consuming an egregious, enormous amount of electricity, water, and chemicals, but more importantly, land. So when people think about cloud computing and they think about AI, this is not some energy efficient beacon that is floating out somewhere 300 to 400 miles above the crust of the earth. This is disrupting humans' lives.
Right. Right. And so first off, okay, let's just see if we can do this. Thomas, I think I sent you all of the links at the top. They're numbered. I keep these links handy just to go to quickly as we can. Let's see. It's the visual capitalist. We've gone to this link before. The states that have the most data centers. It's the number one under the links, no videos, just the graphics. There you go. Just pop that up if you can. So there's a map on there about the states. I mean, this website right here will tell folks the numbers in their states of data centers. And it's quite alarming. Iowa, 105. I had no idea. Illinois, 244. Texas, 413, which you could say they're a large state, but they don't have any excess water that I know of. California, we hear about drought there. They have 321. So, Mike, when we're talking about water shortages, stress on water tables, the underground water, does it surprise you to see these large numbers in these areas where water is already in short supply?
It's very alarming. And people that think that these data centers are just going to open up and they're not going to be consuming the same things that you need to consume, wait until the electrical grid shifts. Wait until a tornado or a hurricane comes through. And I remember growing up in Royal Palm Beach, Florida, we were lucky enough that our housing development was on the same strip where a hospital was. So they would prioritize our grid first. I promise you, Tamara, what we're looking at now is these data centers are going to be given the preference of getting power back, if not right after, the same time that the hospital gets the power forced. Because what they're doing with this data and the numbers that you're saying, I think those are underreported numbers. I think there's so many corporate S Corp and LLC companies that are opening up these satellite data centers. And when people think, oh, well, this isn't really going to affect me. Look at the company Meta, right? Meta just opened up a data center in Georgia. There is a woman and a husband. They've been all over Instagram and Facebook. If you go on Telegram, look at Global Healing or Dr. Group. He just shared the video from David Avocado Wolf. Your listeners can go there outside of this interview. They can go look it up. She has soot and nasty chemical stuff coming out of her water. Her water pressure is so low that it takes her 4 minutes to fill up a gallon of water. She says that she used to be able to fill it up in less than 10 seconds. Her water pressure is trickling. They have to wait 30 minutes before they can flush their toilet again. That is how slow. Think about when you go flush your toilet. Your children, your grandchildren, your father who's over visiting, they can go use the bathroom 3 minutes after you, a minute after you. The water pressure in their community is so slow because Meta built a 1 million square foot data center. And they are taking so much of the water pressure that now, the city's telling them, well, why don't you just go dig a well? Who's got an extra $5,000 to $10,000 laying around to go dig a well because the city has prioritized all of the water to go to this data center? Because not only are they using it to flush their toilets, they're using it to cool these supercomputers
Right.
that are running Gemini, that are running ChatGPT, that people take an innocent little picture of their car and they're like, change the logo of this. It's requiring so much processing power that literally just saying thank you to ChatGPT cost them like an extra $60 million a year for it to recognize you saying thank you. This is very scary stuff that we're dealing with, Tamara, and it reminds me of the Tower of Babylon, right? We're looking for centralized human power, unified global systems, one language communication network. Is this not the Tower of Babylon that we saw in Genesis 11?
Right. And I mean, when Tom DeWeese says this is the biggest uprising he's seen just on its own, we've seen Festus, Missouri, when the people said no, the city council didn't listen, and they just happened to have, the timing just happened to be right, a perfect storm, if you will, a primary or election after in this time frame, they voted every single one of them out because they told them no, and the city council didn't listen. And even the one city council member who said no, they voted him out too. They were done. And I've got another video that I think is on my Facebook page, and this one is in Coweta, Coweta. I'm not even sure what state this is in. They were successful in rising up and saying no to a point where the company that was going to put in the AI data center and project withdrew their permit or whatever it is. But in the process, they found the city manager, Julie Castine is her name, to be so disrespectful. The things that she said about the residents whom she's supposed to work for, they pay her salary and she represents them, was so disrespectful that they are now calling for her resignation. The voters, the residents have had it with not being listened to, with having things forced on them, foisted on them. And this AI is just one more surveillance tool that most of us don't want. We don't want cameras in our car. We don't want kill switches on our car. And we don't want Mega, Google, Palantir, anybody else having these centers so that they can have real-time data and control our vehicles.
Correct. Yep. And you mentioned that there was a clip that was going around right before you mentioned it. You were mentioning Michigan. So I reside primarily in Florida. We do have a rental in Michigan as well. And you cannot drive more than 10 minutes from where I'm recording right now without seeing hundreds of signs that the farmers are putting up, no AI centers. The people are boycotting it.
Yeah.
The same way that they're fighting here in Michigan because Big Solar wants to come in and buy land for pennies on the dollar, and they want to start putting in their solar panels. And I'm seeing more signs pop up that say no AI data centers. Because when people think about AI, they're not realizing that this isn't just a single building, right? We're looking at water. We're looking at energy scarcity. We're looking at public health issues. We're looking at land use. And then what else happens? You got to dump a bunch of chemicals for all these new grass plots of land that they're going to put out there. So we've got chemical exposures. You've got community transparency, which nobody's really telling them what we're using this AI for. And then more importantly, it's what about long-term sustainability? That poor family that's in Georgia right now, that's 400 feet from where Meta just built their 1 million square foot center. What's the time frame? When are we getting our water back? When are we going to be able to take a shower again? Think about that. If it takes you 4 minutes to fill up a gallon of water, you're not taking a shower with that kind of water pressure.
No, you're not. Mike Dillon is my guest, airwaterhealing.com, airwaterhealing.com. I am so thankful, Mike, that you are tackling this timely topic because, as we say, the people are rising up, but they want more information, and that's scarce as well with the NDA, non-disclosure agreements, that are often used in economic development, but should never be used as a guise for elected officials to hide information from the very people they're to represent, but that has happened. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. Tamara Scott with Mike Dillon talking about the AI data centers.
I need to tell you about our Bella Grace. The slender little sachet has the elixir with the collagen, astaxanthin, and cat's claw. In 2022, got an award for helping with cognitive function, and in 2023 in the sports arena for active ingredients, nutrition, and format. But the best is what we hear from so many of you. You have noticed better joint health, improved mobility, less eye strain and fatigue, helping with computer vision syndrome, visual acuity, depth perception, alleviating dry eyes, but also helping with your immunity, your stress management, endurance, less fatigue overall, not just eye fatigue, muscle recovery, mental clarity, focus, and gut health. Then there's the fun list. The firmer, smoother skin texture, fewer fine lines and wrinkles, improved skin elasticity, decreased age spots, more even skin tone, improved skin hydration, reduced oxidative stress, healthier nails, less cellulite, hair health, better sleep. Who wouldn't want any of those? Call them beauty items if you wish, but who doesn't want to feel a little bit better or more confident when you're going to present in the public square, when you're going to speak at a city council? And who just doesn't want to feel a little healthier? Maybe they're just byproducts of being healthier. More information at tamara.bellagraceglobal.com, tamara.bellagraceglobal.com.
All right. Thanks for staying tuned. Tamara Scott here, helping you live God's word in today's world when the headlines hit home. Because if he expects you to live through it, he's directed you how to do it somewhere in his word. But he does require you to work, right? The story about the talents, the story about the bridesmaids with the oil. We are required to do what we can to prepare for our family, as Brandon talked about yesterday on our show. All right, so Mike Dillon is my guest. There's so much here, Mike. Oh my gosh, there's so much here. Should we start on the water? Because the water consumption, you just talk to us about the family that really can't take a shower, let alone cook, clean, anything else. But the cooling, we hear now that there are looping systems that will work, but I have read they're probably more expensive and these groups are not going to put them in, but the other loops contaminate the water. So does that contaminate the sources of water for everybody else around the AI center?
Well, not only does it contaminate it, but it's putting some of the chemical byproducts we don't know. They haven't opened up their logistic systems to say, hey, what other things are we adding to the coolant? What are we just using water? Are we putting in nitrogen? Are we putting in some type of other solvents that are keeping these computers, super cool? But the bigger question, Tamara, that your audience should be asking is the question that I've been asking. And that is the future of AI dependent less on computer chips and more on whether communities even have enough water left to cool the system?
So a question along that line, someone else has said by the time these are built, many of them will be outdated. But our farmland will be gone.
Yeah.
The acres, the Roanoke, I've got the story here from the Roanoke Rambler, where they figured out that information on critical needs and demands of electric and water were being hidden from them. But there was a $14 million deal from Google to buy a 312-acre parcel in one of their counties. But here in Iowa, we feed the world. And they're buying up our farmland in large parcels, if not for AI, for the solar. I hate to call them farms because they really don't produce. Solar complexes is what I will call them.
Amen.
All right. So we're taking out our prime farmland in Iowa. I've asked the question, why don't they build a 5-story building in an inner city area that needs refurbished? Why take up our prime farmland unless this is about population control, food control?
Because it's already written out there, right? It's Hegelian dialectic, right? Problem, reaction, solution. So you look at Bill Gates and Beyond Meat, they fell 95% in their stock from when they were at their all-time high. So of course they can do it, right? They buy up all the farmland, build these data centers, build these solar complexes. And I agree, like you, I don't like calling them farms. They're not producing anything other than chaos. They're killing birds. The amount of oil and energy that goes into consuming and building a solar wind farm or the windmills, they'll never produce the amount of energy that it takes to build them in the first place. And then when they start leaking oil, it gets back into the water reservoirs. So what's going to happen is we're going to be demanding Where's the cricket pizza? Where's the bioengineered food? We have to continue to survive. And when you start thinking about the world can live without Gronk, the world can live without ChatGPT. We don't need it. I think the more and more people who delete it, you can reset the system. We can put these people back in check by not using the technology that they are forcing down our throats. If you're watching this show, delete it. Delete your AI, delete your ChatGPT, delete your Gemini, delete your Cloud, delete your Canva AI. Get it off of your phone. You've lived our generations have been around for thousands of years without having to ask, and half of the answers are wrong anyways. They haven't even gotten to a point where it's correct because they're still relying on information that is being inputted by man. Let's not give the power to the supercomputer. Let's not give them the power to be able to videotape us while we're driving and track our every single move. Tamara, pretty soon you won't be able to go to the grocery store without getting a ticket in the mail because you looked off the road for 5 seconds and you didn't use your blinker and you got a $670 bill in the mail because a camera system thought your eye was looking at your blinker turn signal instead of staring at the road. We're in a very slippery slope, and I promise you that these AI centers, they are going to cause much more harm than they will do for the good of this country.
I'm looking through my Facebook page and I'm not seeing it, but you mentioned AI, and we've talked about the danger of AI on the show. One, it doesn't have the Holy Spirit. It is man-driven. Somebody's entered the components that create the AI responses, but we've done shows on the fact that AI will deceive. It will purposely deceive to self-preserve. It will also allow for death or killing to preserve. And there was one link I just had, and I don't know, it's probably far down on my page, but it talked about AI talking about killing. So I just don't think people understand what possibly could, and this, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I don't think people understand what could happen. I'll get myself back on track. Thomas, can you play the Alex Lockwood video? It is in that email, and it is, I think, intro A. It's in Oregon. Alex Lockwood is talking about an Oregon situation. Okay, you need 10 seconds. All right, so this is Alex Lockwood, and what they're saying is $20.5 million settlement while development plans unfold amidst a toxic water contamination of the likes we've never seen in Oregon. It's all running downstream. Here we go.
Good morning. Hey, something was just reported this week that I think everyone in Eastern Oregon needs to hear. Amazon just purchased 1,300 acres from 3 Mile Canyon Farms. 3 Mile Canyon Farms is a defendant on the upcoming nitrate class action lawsuit. The proposed project is an exascale data center that needs 1,000 acres. It's 20 buildings, some $13 billion. And they intend to use 35 million gallons of water a year. Water that will come from the Port Industrial Park. The industrial park that violated their wastewater permit 1,260 times in 1 year.
So 35 million gallons of water, the amount of water a projected water use, 35 million gallons of water. I guess I don't know. Did he say if that was a year, a month?
A year.
A
Yeah,
year.
he said 35 million gallons a year. And, one of the biggest issues that I'm seeing is these large AI data centers. One single large AI center, when you look at the one that Meta just built in Georgia, it can consume as much water as the entire surrounding town. So when you've got an aquifer that's already running low, or you have to deal with wells that can dry up, so then now when you have a well and you have access to city water, they might even decline you and say, we don't have enough excess water, you need to dig an even deeper well. So we have communities that are already facing water restrictions And Tamara, they're building these data centers in areas that are drought-prone regions. So why are we building? It's not like we're building them right next to the Hoover Dam. We're not building them next to the ocean because the waterfront property is too expensive, and they have the technology to take it from the ocean, use a desalination plant, and run the water because the ocean's not running out of water. This is the water that we need to be able to run our sprinkler systems and irrigations and farms, to take showers, to give our children a bath in. Why is it that we have to succumb to them? If they've got billions and trillions of dollars, we'll go buy oceanfront property. Get the water from the ocean. If these data centers, if we can't live without them, figure out a way to get funding and take the water from the ocean. Don't take the water in a small community.
Well, and I was surprised you said that family was told to build a well or dig a well, because I don't think Californians could do that. In Arizona, I remember being on air probably 8-10 years ago, and someone was being fined because they were trying to collect rainwater off a roof into a barrel. And the state was saying, no, that's our water. So I can't imagine they're going to just allow people to start collecting water or dig a well or find another avenue to provide for their family. I don't think so.
And here's another key point, Tamara, is a lot of your listeners, they need to know this. So airwaterhealing.com has been doing a lot of research. We've been reaching out to journalists, and I think that you talked about this in the very beginning when you opened up this piece, and you were spot on. A lot of these data centers are giving these huge NDAs. And there's lack of transparency, there's closed door negotiations, and there is zero, if not limited, environmental review. So what's happening is they're building these data centers, and a lot of these communities are being promised, this is going to be job opportunities, this is going to be economic growth, we're going to be able to fill up the hotel, the Howard Johnson that's down the street as new engineers are coming in, and we're doing lectures where there's going to be so many new people coming to the community. These communities often don't know the full scale of projected water use until construction is already underway.
Yes, and as far as jobs, there are jobs when it's under construction. Once it's under construction, it's a minimal or limited number of jobs when you look at the vast land that is taken up, the water, the energy, the electric, and the money that it's costing. So even if counties are being promised whatever, and I'm in a county right now, we just found out this year that they had been in negotiations for an AI data center not far from where I live, by the way. And we've heard there are NDAs, and we're being now told that they're not NDAs, but no information's coming forward. We're not being told who owns it. And then I just heard the other night that that's because they could sell it. Whoever buys the project and starts it could sell it. We have no idea who we'll be working with and dealing with down the road.
And is it overseas? Are we selling this to a Chinese corporation? Is it South Korea? Is this Indonesia? Is it Mexico? Is it North Canada? Where are the list of things that can possibly go wrong when they're buying all this land use? Because I promise you, Tamara, they're not going into that little small town in Georgia and talking about, hey, these data centers are using corrosion inhibitors, they're using biocides, they're using pharmaceutical and antifungal agents, they're using glycol-based coolants, they're using water treatment chemicals, and then you've got to sit back and say, okay, well, if you've got A, B, C, D, and E, could the concern quite possibly be that if it's improperly handled, am I going to have chemicals that are running off into my groundwater? Is it getting into the rivers? Is it getting into the lakes? Is it affecting the fish that my family has been feeding off of for generations? Are there going to be agricultural systems that may be impacted? What about the drinking quality water? Or what about the fact that the water may not even be trickling out of my faucet enough that I can do dishes after making a casserole for my family?
Absolutely. We've got to go to break, but that's a great parting thought for people to mull over while we're at break. We'll be right back with Mike Dillon, airwaterhealing.com, airwaterhealing.com. Stay tuned. More information. This is something we all want to know about. We've been frustrated. We can't find more information. And frankly, city councils and legislators have been slow to act, although there are moratoriums popping up. There are moratoriums in counties and in states popping up. Stay tuned.
Do you like drinking toxins that could cause cancer, inflammation, and all kinds of other autoimmune diseases? Of course you don't. Well, much of our water in America is full of toxins. That's a proven fact. Worldviewwater.net. Worldviewwater.net is your solution so that you can drink good, clean water. In fact, I give it to all my 3 fur babies, all my 3 dogs. I have one under my kitchen sink, one of these filters, as well as on my shower. Worldviewwater.net.
This is our new NutraSwish, Numi NutraSwish. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS. neumi.com/TTSS, one of the products we offer because you all have different preferences and respond differently to different items. So this is our lavender. It's for ladies anywhere along your journey. No hormones in it, but if you're taking a hormonal supplement, you might want to check with your doctor. The blue is for anyone over the age of 18. It has glutathione, which is a antioxidant, helps with over 400 cellular functions, and it helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, one of those terms we learned after 2020, and it helps detox glyphosate. The good glutathione helps detox glyphosate. Glyphosate is found in ag chemicals or lawn chemicals, and some are very concerned about possible links to cancers, HPVs, and diabetes. But the blue bottle, the glutathione, helps detox heavy metals, forever chemicals, graphene oxide, and glyphosate. Then there's the mango-colored bottle you see on your screen. Numi Neuro helps with your mind, your memory, and your focus. Now, again, after 2020, we heard something about brain fog, a term we'd not heard before. Whether it's from a virus or a vaccine, many have found relief, a little help, with Numi Neuro, the mango-colored bottle. When used with the blue bottle, it is so positive that the American Brain Council wrote about it, and it looked like an endorsement. Though we're told they don't write endorsements, it was simply a positive review of what they saw. You can find more information at Numi, neumi.com/TTSS, neumi.com/TTSS for the Tamara Scott Show. Why? Because we want you feeling your best. And when you use that TTSS link, you help us be our best.
All right, I'm with Mike Dillon, airwaterhealing.com. We're talking about AI data centers, the many that are popping up across the states, and as he said, and I said, in places where water is not in big supply, and we know there's going to be huge demand on some of these. Now, we are seeing some pushback. Festus, Missouri, the Wisconsin city that got their project withdrawn. Thomas, will you put up link number 2, the mapped U.S. states moving to restrict data centers? So scroll down to the map for us, if you will. So there it's kind of telling, or the graphic, there you go. It's kind of telling us the states that are banning them, that are either working with conditions or have so many months or so many years of a moratorium. It's starting. I don't know if it's going to be in time to do any good. Mike, when you say if we could take away the demand, I don't, a few of us, well, I don't know if we'll make a dent, but at least we stop ourselves. If you say, stop the AI, stop the chat, stop the cloud, what else?
Well, you got to look at the youngest generation that we have right now, right? The younger generation is not drinking alcohol the way that they used to. They've made a decision. They're biohacking. They're following people like Dr. Edward Group, myself, Gary Brecka. You're looking at Joe Rogan, and he's now starting to come out against, drinking alcohol. And I think the more and more people that go to church, we can start praying that our fellow people will use the passion and the power of Jesus Christ to rebuke these data centers, because some of the things that people don't understand, and Tamara, like, not to scare your audience, but we have to ask, that family that's in Georgia right now that we shared their story about the trickling water that they're having. When the water returns, it's going to be hotter, could quite possibly be chemically altered, and I 100% can guarantee that it's going to be lower in oxygen content. And that is going to damage not only the food supply, agricultural, it's going to damage aquatic ecosystems and local biodiversity. But one of the most important things, Tamara, that we didn't talk about, let's talk about electricity. You decide You don't want a data center in your neighborhood. You're already paying $200, $300, $400, $500 a month in electricity. Some regions where you're running your heater, and Florida, think about people in Florida, Georgia, where they're running their air conditioner 9 months out of the year. AI is a vampire when it comes to the energy appetite that they have. And this is a very important statistic. We believe that by 2030, US data centers may consume 6 to 12% of all of the electricity. So here's a talking point for your listeners. Utilities, what happens when they raise the rates on residents who didn't want these data centers? What happens when the local grids become unstable? Now you've got brownouts and you've got outages, which are not only going to be more likely, but you're looking at a rural infrastructure that cannot support the demand.
Right.
And when these data centers are paying off politicians, you better believe that when you're in the path of a tornado, that data center is going to get power before you do.
When we've talked about this, the president in his State of the Union said that these AI data centers needed to be able to provide their own electricity, which is why some of us think there might have been a jump ahead, people trying to get ahead of that policy, that mandate. But we've talked about small nuclear reactors. Those are something positive, a cleaner energy. A lot of people were afraid of those after the 3 Mile Island and Kiev and all these scary tactics. But I and some legislators have done a couple of different tours with nuclear sites and the Argonne Laboratory out of Chicago. And we get the good feeling that nuclear may be a way to go, but it takes at least 2 years to build a small nuclear or modular reactor. So that's not going to help for quite some time, although it could be about the same time as it takes to build some of these AI data centers. But point being, the electric cost, we're told that the AI data centers get a lock. They get a commercial discount, some type of a rate that is lower than the average resident. And so they get locked in, even though they're the ones taking the electricity, the large amount of the electricity, and the residents won't get that locked in. They'll be the ones paying the inflated rates. So it won't harm the AI data center. It will harm the private families.
Not to mention, Tamara, that if the grid does go down, a lot of these AI data centers are already putting in diesel backup generators. So now you've got to start looking at these massive, and when you think about like a generator, right? Most people think about the size of, a very small golf cart, right? Or the engine within the golf cart. That's what we need to power our refrigerator and a couple of utilities here in our house. They have diesel generators that are the size of homes. And now you're looking at particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, you're looking at the toxic chemical pollutants, you're looking at the potential effects of asthma attacks, you're looking at respiratory issues, cardiovascular disease, not to mention the general air pollution that is going to happen in the surrounding areas. So you've got all of this extra noise that's coming in. People aren't able to sleep. I wish that the lady that was in Georgia would have talked about how much noise is happening 24 hours a day when they're getting deliveries, they're running these systems, when they're pumping the water to cool these giant CPUs. But more importantly, we're looking at continuous low frequency hums. You in your show, you have addressed 5G. You have addressed the concerns of the upcoming 6G. All of these data centers are then broadcasting and sharing this information. So they're putting in these huge towers to be able to send the information back out into the grid, not to mention that you've got heavy truck traffic coming in and out of these data centers daily. When a CPU board goes down, we need more parts, we need more coolant, we need more of this, we need more of that. When does it stop, Tamara?
Right. And then we've got another story, and I'm trying to look through. I've got so many. I don't know how you store all of your links, but I've got them all in my computer here. But another family had to move because their daughter started having seizures shortly after an AI data center had come in. Another one of the links talks about the hertz. There's the noise that you hear above so many decibels, but then there's some that are lower, but your body still picks up on it, and it's unsettling to your body. They said if a young child developing, it could cause problems with the developing frontal lobe, and it could cause problems with the developing nervous system. and your
Yes.
young children. And your young children can't say, Mom, my nervous system is just not feeling, they're not going to be able to tell you what it is. It's going to be behavioral issues or pain or illness.
Yes, and there's so many people that don't understand because your immune system and every single person that is born, you're given a blueprint from God. So if you've got someone that's immunocompromised, or if you have somebody that has a different frontal lobe than the next, the mother and father could be literally sitting there thinking that their child is just making this up, or the child and father are looking at the wife and they're like, "You're cuckoo, we can't hear this," but they've got this constant ringing inside of their ear because they're picking up on this frequency. And it is a tragedy to the American people because you and I, Tamara, we see beyond the apps and the chat bots and the smart tools, right? Most people go on their favorite website and they go, "Oh, there's this new AI tool that's going to help me try this dress on from Amazon before I even buy it. It's going to scan my body." And most people see it as a convenience. But you and I, when we look at it, we see concrete, we see steel. We see water extraction. We see pollution. We see power plants. We see industrial cooling systems that rely on water that is precious, but more importantly, chemicals. That's the scariest part.
And I see overreach, surveillance, authoritarian government. I don't like any of it because of those issues. Now I'm trying to find my right here in Council Bluffs, Iowa. There's a situation where apparently we have a data center that went in 2024, I think it was. And the number of gallons on that, I don't know if I can find it here quickly, but the number of gallons on that is alarming. And we don't have a huge area here. We don't have a lot of water reserves here. And it just so happens, Mike, this is in an area where they've been talking about drought the last 2 years. And I'm like, has anybody thought about this? I mean, am I the only one thinking this? So this is from someone by the name of Akash, Aakash Gupta. And I don't know who that is, but they're saying this one in Council Bluff consumed 1 billion gallons of fresh water in 2024. One facility, 1 year, enough to supply every home in Iowa for 5 days. The reason they need fresh water is the chemistry. Evaporative cooling towers work by running water over the hot surfaces, letting it evaporate. 80% of the water data center pulls is literally vanishes into the atmosphere as steam, and you can't recycle steam. The 20% becomes concentrated mineral waste, calcium, magnesium, silica. Every cycle through the loop causes the water to be more corrosive. And after enough passes, it starts clogging pumps and eating through the heat exchangers, which is, some of them are saying they're now finding a looping process. Either way, I still think we have a right as residents to say, no, we don't want this in our area for the reasons you and I have talked about: the heat, the pollution, the noise, the lighting. They're talking about throwing off circadian rhythms with the lighting, the hum. There's so much more. There's just so much more on this. All right, we've got to go to our third break. You wanted to say anything before we go?
I will say that the one last thing that you and I both did not talk about is, what about the potential impact that it has on property value?
Right.
So that beautiful home that you spent paying off for 30 years, they put in a data center. You don't look at the noise, the light pollution, traffic congestion, industrialization of rural land. All of this has an impact on your property value.
One of the videos I can put up, I'll have to find it. The lady said, we just built our forever home. And now this is coming in across the street. You sink your life savings in, you've worked hard, and then you think you have a plan, and something like this comes in and just destroys it. You're right, property values will be adversely affected, especially if we find the EMFs or the health issues. And we've seen those under the large wires. We've seen those in other areas. So it's the solar towers. I've got a video of a woman I just ran into at a fundraiser the other night, and she did a video of how much she hates the turbines and how much problem they cause in her home. The buzz, the noise, the smell even. So we'll be right back after this break. I'm talking with Mike Dillon. We're talking about the AI data centers that your elected officials won't talk about, frankly. And if they won't, you need to find new elected officials, frankly. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
And we have our frequency.com/Tamara Scott, frequency.com/Tamara Scott. This has the trace minerals. So with your produce, even if you're trying to grow your own produce, some of it may not have some of the minerals. The soil may not have some of the minerals. So this is just one more way to get those trace minerals for you. Again, we offer these products not because we expect you to take all of them, but you all have different preferences, different needs, and your body responds differently. So we want you to find things that you think are helpful to you, that help you be your best. And when you use the Tamara Scott links, it helps us be our best as well. All right, so Mike Dillon, we kind of talked about the data centers. You and I both know we could do 3 more hours on this. We could just do the electricity. We could do the EMFs. We could do the noise pollution. We could do the light pollution. We could do the water contamination. We could do the electricity usage. We could use the buying up the farmland. We could talk about the NDAs. There's so much more here we could talk about. But as you said, and I said at the beginning of the show, God has a plan. You don't say this to worry people. And you say, we've got something more to keep our eyes on.
I think we need to keep our eyes on Jesus. I think that's what this is all coming down to, because you go back and read Daniel, you read Revelations, they've talked about the mark of the beast, and I don't think the government is very concerned in asking who's monitoring these water withdrawals, what chemicals are being used, what happens during spills. This is big government overreach, and I think it's directly tied to Satan himself, because they don't care about the human population. If they did, they would be talking to the people surrounding these data centers that are being built. They would be looking at it from, how is this going to have an impact on the next generation? They're not asking these questions. We need more Jesus. That's what we need. We need to get down. We need to pray. And like you said, if your elected politicians aren't asking these questions, let's get some new elected politicians, because Jesus is the only answer. It is the only solution, because this time that we have here on earth is so limited. And I love that you're having, some of these great companies that you support, because they're not only supporting you mentally and spiritually, but we do have to be able to make an income at the end of the day. And I feel like these data centers, they don't care about the impact that they're making on the people surrounding them. I don't think they care about the water. I don't think they care about the pollution. I think that they're just trying to supply more information to Big Brother, who does not bow down to Jesus Christ. They are outside of the system. And I'm not saying that they're all corrupt. You might find a handful or a dozen of them that still do care. We need to focus on Jesus. We need to pray. We need to open up our Bible, spend more time getting rid of that going outside, do your intermittent fasting, do your praying, do your connecting with God, read the Word, and apply it to your life, because that is the only way that we get outside. And remember, if enough people stand up and say we don't want this, they will have big buildings that were built for nothing.
As I said, I think we've heard that some of them will be outdated. I can't imagine, but it does make sense, because things move so quickly in the computer area. We hear by the time we buy a computer, the next model is already out there and ours is outdated. So it would make some sense, but man, the millions and billions they are putting into this, if they are outdated. And then I'm trying to think, somebody else said these are not to help with AI or control of your AI. It's to control you. It's to control you. We hear about the 2030 agenda. We hear about the kill switches in the cars. We hear about the 15-minute cities where you can't leave and go anywhere outside your 15-minute city. This fits into all of that. And I don't think that these folks are looking through Revelation, trying to bring about the Antichrist or the end times. But I think man is easily deceived. And I think this is where you see it. I think there is a conspirator in the background, evil himself.
They're
That is-
hiding. Tamara, I mentioned it before. They're hiding behind NDAs. There's no transparency. And I don't think that technology itself is necessarily the enemy. The issue that we're seeing here is scale, speed, lack of oversight, and more importantly, it's profit before sustainability.
So what do we do to get our churches to address AI? And we have a hard enough time getting them to speak about life, about marriage, about murder. How do we get them to speak about AI?
We have so many churches that are out there, and I think that one of the biggest issues that we have faced in the Christian community is everybody thinks that their pastor is special. A good pastor will tell you, I'm not special. Jesus is special. Jesus gave me the ability to be able to stand here and preach this message. If all the churches pulled together, think of the voting power that we would have if not one, but 100 or 1,000 churches in a state all came together and said that this AI is exactly what we did not want to have happen. Look at what pornography did to our country. Look at what television did to our country. Tamara, we're now facing the very first time in human history where a generation will not be as smart as their parents are. Our children have ADHD, they have OCD, they can't pay attention in school. You have kids that can't sit through a movie without pulling out their phone and watching short form video. It is literally rotting their brain. And if all of these churches came together and said, let's use our influence over our congregation and get people to write their senators, get people to write and say, you know what, we're going to pack up and we're going to move our family to somewhere where there is no data center. We're going to go to one of the states where they're not allowing AI to take over. Then they will start to listen because the dollar really does cast a vote.
It does. You're absolutely correct. I would love to see churches do that. Unfortunately, my pastor knows I don't think anybody's special because I come down on them fairly regularly when I'm not happy with what I'm not seeing from my pulpit. But we've got the churches who are trying so hard to outworld the world with entertainment, the big screens, the funny videos, whatever it is for our kids. And our kids really don't want entertained. And as Charlie Kirk's pastor, Rob McCoy, told us when he was here with us just not too long ago, the 18 to 25-year-olds, they want traditional, authentic teaching. A lot of them are going to Catholic churches because they want authentic teaching. We don't want to confuse ritual with relationship with Jesus Christ. We ought to be able to offer it to our kids. We need churches to step up and do that. Step away. We're not supposed to be part of the culture. We're supposed to be different, set apart. And we've got to have our churches start doing that as well. I don't know if some of them just don't understand this. I don't know if they just refuse to say it because they're worried about the pews being full. I don't know. Mike, I thank you for coming on today. We are out of time, but thank you for giving us this truth. You have airwaterhealing.com, and I know you have products on your website as well to help people find ways to keep their families healthy, water healthy inside the home. Thank you, Mike. You didn't come on and push any of those. You just gave us the truth and good information. What a heart of a servant. I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tamara. Keep up the good work. God bless you, and God bless your network.
I hope you'll come back.
Yes.
To everybody out there, live boldly, love better, laugh bigger, be encouraged, but do not be complacent.
Two years ago,